Welcome back, everyone, to The Deep Dive, where we dive deep into fascinating topics. Today, we're going to be looking at agreeableness, as described by Personality NFT.
Agreeableness.
Yeah, one of the big 5 personality traits.
Yeah, the big 5 is really a well-established model in psychology. It gives us this framework for understanding these core dimensions of personality.
Okay, so it's kind of like a personality GPS, right? Helps us kind of navigate the whole landscape of human behavior.
Exactly.
So agreeableness, we kind of have an idea what it means, but I think there's more to it than just like being nice. Like, what exactly does it mean to be agreeable?
So agreeableness basically encompasses compassion, cooperation, and a genuine consideration for others.
Okay.
And, it influences how we approach conflict, how we perceive the intentions of other people, and it can even shape our career choices.
Oh, interesting. So I guess the question is, where do you fall on this agreeableness spectrum? Are you the peacemaker, always striving for harmony? Or do you tend to maybe prioritize your own needs, even if it means a little friction?
Think about that as we kind of dig deeper.
Yeah.
Personality NFT breaks down agreeableness into 6 interconnected facets.
Okay, let's break it down. Let's unpack these facets. So first up, trust in others. Do you just, assume the best in people? Or do you approach them with a healthy dose of skepticism?
Yeah, and that kind of ties into another facet, which is straightforwardness and honesty.
Okay.
Highly agreeable individuals, they tend to be upfront, honest, even if it means risking a little bit of conflict. But those who are lower on the agreeableness scale might be a little bit more strategic. They might bend the truth sometimes to avoid rocking the boat.
Interesting. So it's not just about being nice. It's about how you communicate and navigate these social situations, right?
Absolutely.
All right, up next we have altruism and concern for others.
Yes, this facet really reflects how important is it for us to help others. Highly agreeable individuals often prioritize the needs of others, even if it means sacrificing their own.
Right. Like, think of that friend who's always volunteering, always willing to lend a hand, even when they're stretched super thin themselves.
Yeah.
Is it truly like altruism, or is there a little bit of people-pleasing going on there?
That's a good question.
That is the question, yeah.
All right, so that brings us to compliance and willingness to compromise.
Right. So agreeableness plays a key role in how we approach conflict and negotiation.
So if you're highly agreeable, you're more likely to kind of be the peacemaker, seek compromise, seek harmony, even if it means bending a little.
Exactly. So they really value social cohesion, keeping things smooth, maintaining those positive relationships, even if it means putting their own needs on the back burner.
But that does raise a good question. Can too much agreeableness be detrimental?
Yes.
Where's the line, between being accommodating and being taken advantage of?
That's the fine line.
It's a fine line.
A delicate balance.
Exactly. All right. Next facet, modesty and humility.
Okay, so this is all about how we view ourselves, how we view our accomplishments. Highly agreeable individuals often kind of shy away from the spotlight, preferring to let others shine.
Right, they're the team players.
Yeah.
They're not looking for all the recognition themselves. They just want to celebrate the success of the whole group, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But could that modesty hold them back in a more competitive world? You know what I mean?
It's a good question, and while humility is admirable, there are times when self-promotion is necessary.
Yeah, you got to toot your own horn sometimes.
Exactly. So finding that balance again.
Finding that balance.
It's all about the balance.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, and finally, we arrive at maybe the core of agreeableness. Sympathy and empathy.
Right. So sympathy is, you acknowledge someone's pain, while empathy is when you take it a step further and actually feel what they're feeling.
Oh, wow.
You step into their shoes. Really try to experience the world through their eyes. And highly agreeable individuals, they excel at this.
So if you can truly feel what someone else is going through and really understand their perspective, does that then make you more likely to treat them with compassion and kindness?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Empathy is the foundation for strong, healthy relationships.
Makes sense.
It allows us to really connect on a deeper level, build that trust and understanding.
Okay, so now that we've kind of laid out these 6 facets, I want to try to imagine how they play out in real life scenarios.
Okay.
So let's say you've got 2 coworkers, both talented.
Right.
But with very different approaches to, teamwork.
Okay.
So let's say we've got Alex, the epitome of agreeableness, always willing to lend a hand, quick to offer encouragement, genuinely cares about their colleagues' well-being.
Okay, I like Alex.
Yeah, Alex is great.
All right.
But then there's Jamie. A bit more direct, driven, focused on results.
Right.
Not afraid to speak their mind, even if it ruffles a few feathers.
Yeah.
Maybe a little rough around the edges, but gets things done.
Gets things done.
So, neither approach is inherently better, right?
Right.
I mean, Alex's agreeableness is going to foster a very supportive and collaborative environment.
For sure.
But they might struggle with those tough decisions,
Yeah, or setting boundaries.
Setting boundaries, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
While Jamie's directness can be a huge asset in terms of like driving projects forward, but their lower agreeableness, it might lead to conflict and resentment within the team.
Right. So it really highlights the importance of understanding the strength and the potential downsides of each approach.
Yeah, it's like that age-old dilemma, right?
Yeah.
The heart versus the head.
Yeah.
The peacemaker versus the pragmatist.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's playing out everywhere, right?
It is.
In workplaces, in families, friendships, all over the place.
It's everywhere.
But here's the thing. This is fascinating, I think. Agreeableness doesn't just impact our behavior. It actually shapes how we see the world.
It does. Highly agreeable individuals tend to have a more positive outlook. They tend to assume the best in others, even when faced with these really challenging situations.
So like personality NFT gives this great example.
Okay.
Imagine a coworker who's always late,
Okay.
chronically late, right?
Yeah.
A highly agreeable person might just see them as overwhelmed,
Right.
struggling with time management, rather than being intentionally disrespectful.
We're giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Exactly.
Right.
Looking for that positive explanation.
Right.
That's really interesting. So this tendency towards positive perception, can that then reduce conflict and foster understanding, and help create a more harmonious environment?
Absolutely. But of course, there's a potential downside.
Right, because sometimes those rose-colored glasses can prevent you from seeing the red flags or addressing issues that need to be like confronted head on, right?
Absolutely.
So again, it's finding that balance.
Yes, always the balance.
Being compassionate, but also discerning. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about motivation. What drives us? What gives us that sense of purpose and fulfillment?
Right, and it turns out that agreeableness plays a big role here too.
Okay.
Highly agreeable folks are often driven by intrinsic rewards. So things like helping others, fostering harmony, making a positive impact on the world.
It's not about external validation or material success.
Not necessarily, no.
Really more about that inner sense of satisfaction.
Exactly.
Okay. So like think about careers that attract highly agreeable people.
Yes.
Like counseling, social work, teaching, right? Those are all fields that require empathy, patience, a genuine desire to like nurture and support others.
Exactly.
It makes sense. I mean, these are the people who really find joy in making difference in other people's lives.
They do.
But here's a question that comes to mind. Can they get burned out
Yeah.
by always putting others first?
That is a crucial point, and that's why self-care is so important for highly agreeable people.
Yeah.
And setting boundaries. So, preventing compassion fatigue.
Yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about how agreeableness shapes our perceptions, our motivations, even our career choices.
It's a big one.
It really is. But what about the biological roots of this trait?
Yeah.
Is it all nurture, or is there a nature component here?
It's this really fascinating interplay of both.
Oh, wow.
And there's compelling research that actually links agreeableness to genetics, brain structure, and even neurotransmitters.
Oh, wow. Tell me more about that. This connection between biology and personality is just so intriguing to me.
Yes. So, for example, oxytocin,
Okay.
often called the love hormone,
I've heard of that.
linked to empathy and social bonding, which are key aspects of agreeableness.
Okay.
And studies have shown that people with higher levels of oxytocin, they tend to be more trusting, more compassionate, and just more pro-social.
So it's not just about how we were raised or the experiences we've had. Our biology plays a role.
It plays a big role.
Fascinating. Okay, so let's bring it back to the real world for a second.
Yeah.
How does agreeableness affect those all-important relationships in our lives?
That's a great question. So, the romantic relationships, the friendships, the family bonds.
Right.
No surprise here, agreeableness is a key ingredient for strong, healthy relationships. These are folks who are empathetic listeners. They're skilled at resolving conflicts. They genuinely prioritize the needs of their loved ones.
So it's like They have that secret sauce, right?
Right.
For creating that harmonious, supportive environment.
They do.
But remember that potential pitfall we talked about earlier?
Uh-huh.
Always putting others first.
Yes,
That can actually lead to resentment if you're not careful.
it can, absolutely.
So how do you balance that?
It's about finding that balance, that delicate balance
Right.
between being supportive and maintaining your own sense of self.
Yeah.
And it's okay to assert your own needs, to set boundaries, to say no when you need to.
Right. It's not selfish. It's healthy.
Exactly.
It's about self-respect.
Absolutely.
All right. And that brings us to another interesting area. Careers.
Okay.
We've touched on how agreeableness might draw someone towards a profession like teaching or counseling.
Right.
But what about the bigger picture? How does this trait impact career choices and job satisfaction overall?
Well, I mean, certain careers definitely benefit from a healthy dose of agreeableness. Think about roles that require strong interpersonal skills, empathy, cooperation.
Right. Like what? Give me some examples.
Yeah, so like customer service, healthcare, human resources, even diplomacy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, those are all really good fits for people high in agreeableness.
But here's a twist. I want to throw this out there. Can too much agreeableness be a problem at work?
Ooh.
Could it lead to someone being taken advantage of or struggling to advocate for themselves?
Absolutely. It's like that old saying, everything in moderation.
Right.
If you're constantly putting others first, avoiding conflict at all costs, you might miss opportunities for growth, or you might struggle to advance your own career goals.
So give me an example. Like how would that play out?
Okay, imagine a highly agreeable individual
Okay.
in a leadership position.
Okay. Right.
They might shy away from making those tough decisions, or they might struggle to delegate effectively because they don't want to burden others
Right.
or risk conflict.
Interesting.
Yeah, so their desire for harmony might inadvertently hinder their effectiveness as a leader.
Wow, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So finding that balance is crucial. Right?
Yeah, it is.
Harnessing those positive aspects of agreeableness, the empathy, the teamwork, the relationship building,
Right.
but also developing that assertiveness
Yeah.
and self-advocacy skill
You need both.
needed to thrive in a competitive world.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And that brings us to one of the most compelling aspects, I think, of this whole discussion, the link between agreeableness and life outcomes.
Yes.
I mean, it's not just about feeling good in the moment. It's about long-term well-being, happiness, even physical health.
Absolutely.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying that being agreeable can actually make you healthier?
The research is fascinating, yes. Studies have shown that highly agreeable people, they tend to be happier, less stressed, and they even have lower blood pressure.
Wow.
Yeah. And they also tend to build stronger social support networks, which is huge.
Yeah.
A major buffer against stress and isolation.
It makes sense. I mean, less conflict, stronger relationships, a more positive outlook on life.
Right.
All of these things are going to contribute to a greater sense of well-being.
Absolutely.
Okay. But I got to ask this question. It's been lingering in my mind.
Okay.
Can you actually change your level of agreeableness?
Ooh, that is an excellent question.
Or are we stuck with whatever hand we were dealt?
So while agreeableness is considered a relatively stable trait, the expression of that trait can actually be influenced by a lot of different factors.
Like what?
So life experiences,
Yeah.
conscious effort, even the specific situations that we find ourselves in.
So it's not about becoming a different person.
Right.
It's about adapting our behavior to different contexts.
Exactly. Think of it as fine-tuning your approach, learning to adjust the volume of your agreeableness.
Oh, it's a dial.
Yeah, like a dial, exactly.
Turn it up, turn it down.
Exactly, depending on the situation.
Okay, so even if I'm naturally inclined to avoid conflict, I can learn strategies to be more assertive when I need to be.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's about expanding that repertoire of skills
Yeah,
and becoming more adaptable.
it is, yeah. And that's where self-awareness comes in. Understanding our own patterns and tendencies is crucial.
Right. So the first step to growth is recognizing, where we are, where we want to go.
Yeah.
And what tools we need to get there.
What tools we need exactly.
And that brings us back to those personality tests we mentioned earlier.
Yes, those assessments can be really valuable tools for self-discovery. But, I have to admit, I still have a little bit of skepticism about them.
I understand. Yeah. There are a lot of personality tests out there.
Yeah.
And some are definitely more reliable than others.
And some feel a little gimmicky.
Oh, absolutely. Some are absolutely gimmicky. But when they're used thoughtfully,
Right.
they can offer some really valuable insights.
Okay, so how do we know which tests are actually worth our time?
So our source material, Personality NFT, specifically mentions a few that are really reputable for measuring agreeableness.
Okay, tell me more.
Okay, so one is the NEO Personality Inventory, also known as the NEOPIR.
Oh, okay, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's a really well-established assessment used in research and clinical settings. And then the other one is the International Personality Item Pool, or the IPIP.
The IPIP, got it.
The IPIP.
So these tests can actually give us a deeper understanding of our own agreeableness.
They can.
Okay.
And they go beyond just giving you a simple score. They delve into the nuances of your unique expression of this trait. So it's not just about labeling ourselves as high or low in agreeableness.
Right.
It's about exploring the complexities within that.
Exactly. It's about understanding how those 6 facets that we discussed,
Right.
trust, altruism, empathy, and so on, how those play out in your life.
It's almost like you get a personalized map of your agreeableness landscape.
Yes, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, you see the mountains and the valleys.
You do.
You can see where you might want to, build a bridge or two.
You do. It's about recognizing your strengths, your potential challenges, and those areas where you might want to, focus on growth.
So that's where the real work begins, right?
Yes.
Cultivating and moderating our agreeableness.
Absolutely. And once we have that self-awareness, we can start implementing strategies for change.
Okay, so let's talk about those strategies. I mean, we've said it before, agreeableness is a stable trait,
Right.
but it's not set in stone.
It's not. There's always room for growth and adjustment.
So one key area we can focus on is assertiveness.
Yes, especially for those who tend to be overly accommodating.
Right.
Assertiveness is about expressing your needs and your opinions clearly and respectfully, even if it means disagreeing with others.
So it's not about becoming aggressive or confrontational.
Not at all. It's about finding that balance between respecting yourself and respecting others.
Right, so how do we actually develop those assertiveness skills?
Start small. Identify those situations where you typically hold back and practice speaking up.
Like what? What kind of situations are we talking about?
Maybe it's voicing your opinion in a meeting, setting a boundary with a friend, or simply saying no when you're feeling overwhelmed.
It's about finding your voice.
Yes.
Your sense of agency.
Yes, absolutely.
Without sacrificing, your kindness or your compassion.
That's it. And with practice, it will become more natural and comfortable.
All right, so what else is in the toolkit for cultivating agreeableness?
Well, we talked about assertiveness, but another crucial aspect is empathy.
Now, you might think highly agreeable people already have this one down.
You would think.
Right, but
But it's about actively cultivating and strengthening that skill.
okay, so what does that actually look like in practice?
So it's about actively listening to others, seeking to understand their perspectives,
Okay.
even when they're very different from your own. It's about putting yourself in their shoes, trying to imagine the world through their eyes.
Wow.
It's about challenging your own assumptions and your own biases.
So it's about recognizing that everyone has their own unique story,
Yes,
their own struggles, their own triumphs,
absolutely.
and recognizing that shared humanity.
Yes.
I mean, that can be a powerful force for connection and understanding.
It can.
It's like that saying, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle.
I love that quote.
Right.
Yes, it reminds us that a little empathy can go a long way.
So we've got assertiveness,
Yes.
empathy.
Yeah. Yes.
What's the third tool in this agreeableness toolbox?
The third tool is setting boundaries.
Setting boundaries. That makes sense. Something we've touched on,
Who's touched on it?
but let's explore it a little further.
Let's explore it. Absolutely.
Okay, so setting boundaries, it's about recognizing your limits,
Yes.
what you're comfortable with,
Right.
and communicating those clearly to others.
Communicating those clearly.
It's about protecting your own well-being without sacrificing your kindness or your compassion.
It is.
But I think this can be a real challenge for people, especially those who are naturally inclined to please others.
It can.
It feels almost selfish
Yes.
or mean to say no,
Yeah.
to draw a line in the sand.
It does.
And that's where challenging those negative beliefs comes in, right?
It is. Yes.
Those inner critics that tell us we're not good enough,
Yeah.
not kind enough, not worthy enough.
You have to quiet those voices.
Wow. So we have to recognize those voices
Yeah.
and question their validity.
Question their validity.
So if I catch myself thinking, I'm not good enough or I always have to please everybody, I need to stop and say, is this really true?
Yes. Ask yourself, what evidence do I have to support this thought?
Right. It's about bringing those negative thoughts into the light and examining them.
Absolutely. Shine a light on them. And often when we do that, we realize those thoughts are based on fear or insecurity, not reality.
So it's about replacing those negative thoughts with more positive and empowering beliefs.
Exactly. It's about rewiring our brains for self-compassion and self-respect.
I love that. Rewiring our brains for self-compassion and self-respect.
That's what it's all about.
But it's not a quick fix.
It's not a quick fix, no.
It takes time and effort to shift those deeply ingrained patterns, right?
It does. And that's where self-reflection comes in. Taking the time to honestly assess our behaviors, our motivations, the impact we have on others.
Okay.
Journaling can be a really powerful tool for this.
Oh, interesting. So it's like having a conversation with yourself on paper.
It is, exactly. It allows you to explore your thoughts and your feelings, identify those patterns, and challenge those negative beliefs.
And don't forget the power of feedback from others.
Oh, yes. Feedback is crucial.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes we need that outside perspective to help us see things more clearly.
Yeah. So talking to trusted friends, family members, even a therapist
Yes.
can provide some really valuable insight.
They can. They can offer support, encouragement, and a different perspective on our challenges.
So it's like having a team of cheerleaders and coaches, right?
I like that. I like that analogy. Yeah.
Helping us refine our skills, become the best versions of ourselves.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we don't have to do this work alone.
We don't have to do it
Oh,
alone.
I don't.
You know, we've been really exploring this fascinating world of agreeableness, from like its individual expressions
Yeah.
to its impact on, relationships, careers, all that.
Yeah.
But as we kind of wrap up this exploration, I'm curious about the bigger picture.
Okay.
How does agreeableness shape like society as a whole?
It's a really fascinating question. And, agreeableness, like all personality traits, it has these ripple effects that extend beyond just the individual. They influence, group dynamics, cultural norms, even political landscapes.
So if we imagine a society with like a really high level of agreeableness,
Right.
what might that look like? I mean, paint me a picture.
Okay, so think about cooperation and collaboration. Highly agreeable individuals, they're naturally inclined to want to work together.
Yeah.
They want to see consensus, and they prioritize the well-being of the group.
Okay, so more community involvement,
Yes.
more pro-social behaviors,
Absolutely.
a greater emphasis on social harmony.
Exactly. But there's also a flip side to consider.
Oh, okay.
Can a society be too agreeable?
That's a really interesting question. I never thought of it that way. What are the potential downsides of like too much agreeableness?
Okay, well, think about conflict avoidance.
Okay.
Highly agreeable individuals, they often prioritize maintaining harmony, even if it means suppressing their own needs or avoiding, sometimes those crucial conversations.
So if a society's like overly focused on avoiding conflict,
Right.
could that lead to a reluctance to like address important issues?
Yes.
Or challenge the status quo?
Precisely. And a certain level of assertiveness and a willingness to engage in, constructive debate, that's crucial for progress,
Yeah.
for innovation.
Right. Yeah. If everyone's just going along to get along,
Right.
Nothing changes,
You stagnate.
things stagnate. It's like that saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yes, exactly. And if everybody's too agreeable, too afraid to rock the boat, then, those folks who are more assertive,
Right.
perhaps less scrupulous,
Yeah.
they might end up gaining an unfair advantage.
That's a really good point. So it highlights the importance of balance.
Yeah,
Right.
always.
Even on a societal level.
Always.
We need that blend of agreeableness and assertiveness, cooperation and healthy competition.
It's all about finding that sweet spot. And that sweet spot is crucial, both for individuals and for society as a whole.
So, we've been talking about the complexities of agreeableness.
Right.
Its strengths, its potential pitfalls. As we wrap up this whole deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with? Like, what's the nugget of wisdom that they can carry with them?
The most important thing is self-awareness, really understanding your own level of agreeableness, its nuances, and how it kind of influences your interactions with the world, and recognize, both the gifts and the challenges that this trait brings to your life.
It's about embracing who you are.
Yes.
All of it.
All of it.
And using that knowledge to navigate the world with intention.
Yes.
Authenticity.
And authenticity. Beautifully said.
And remember, it's not about changing who you are at your core,
No.
right? It's about developing those skills, those strategies
Yes.
to express your agreeableness in a way that empowers you
Absolutely.
and enriches your relationships.
Enriches your relationships. That's what it's all about.
So whether you're naturally, inclined to be the peacemaker or the assertive leader, the key is to use that self-knowledge to create a life that is both meaningful and fulfilling.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. Huge thank you to our expert for, sharing your insights, guiding us through this fascinating deep dive into agreeableness.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And to all of our listeners out there, keep exploring.
Yeah, keep exploring.
Stop questioning. Keep embracing the beautiful complexity of human nature. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.